a comprehensive integrated financial sustainability analysis for the city's 2015-2016 budget. Mr. Finance Director.
Good evening, Commissioners. The analysis, the contract with Burton for this analysis, as we have discussed previously in meetings with you, will provide the city with effectively an overview and a much better understanding of the city's interactive and interrelated budgets among all its funds. As I think you know, and as we have tried to do over the years, the city is involved in multiple business enterprises. There are utilities, there are general activities, there is the beach. Trying to give you a clear understanding of how those various functions relate to each other and how decisions that you may make as a policy board for one of those functions can affect the other functions has been a piece that we have been really able to well communicate to you. Burton Associates, who is already your consultants on water, sewer, and regional sewer rate analysis, has developed a model that takes off effectively from the work that they have done in the past for you and integrates multiple funds into the model so that you can clearly see, using a dashboard that is the same among all funds, so you can see as you make decisions on one fund how that affects another fund, and it will be much clearer than we have been able to present to you in the past. This is not a product or not a program that the city would be capable of doing on its own. This is highly sophisticated. It is beyond the city's capability with in-house staff to do. I think in addition to that, as Burton helps with the development of the program, the development of the underlying information in the program, it will help define much more clearly for city staff as well as for you how the underpinnings of your budget work. They also bring to the table experience among, I believe it's 7 or 8 other cities where this has already been done and has been done successfully over a several-year period of time. We have a demo if you really want to look at the demo. I'll leave that up to you. This is, Andy Burnham, who is a consultant, or just a consultant? Senior vice president.
Just a consultant.
A senior vice president with Burton and Associates, and he can certainly run through the model if you want to see that.
Okay, very well, thank you. I think each of us, city manager, had an opportunity to meet. Did everybody get a chance to meet?
Yes,
with
we
these
did.
folks?
Yes.
So everybody met. Does anybody have any questions that you've come up with since you met with these folks? Commissioner Zerdy?
I might have a question, and you can clarify probably, Steve. Now, I know there's an incremental cost for this compared to this, because they're already working for us and doing a very good job. Valuable information to help us balance again between what the charge should be as fair and sustainable for us in terms of our water, sewer, and our regional funds. So this is about $75,000
On top of the amounts that we would already be spending.
And currently, we have some vacancies in the department.
We do that can fund it for the general fund. There also will be some small charges to the beach and golf funds, I believe, and I can't remember what the other one is off the top of my head. Sanitation, there,
Right.
thank you, and stormwater.
It's similar to the distribution that we have for IT purposes.
It is. It works basically the same way.
So I think it's, what I saw in the presentation, it's extremely valuable because of not just you're talking about an interactive means you change this piece here or something else. It shows how they all relate to one another and the connectivity between all of these. That the traditional way of looking at these numbers statistically and accounting practices is not what this is. This is a higher dynamic way for us to get some real what-if scenarios. Well, what if we adjust this over here? What happens? What if we drop this and add this? And see, because we're looking for fairness in the way that we're looking to sustain our infrastructure as well as the rest of the things the city has to take care of. And so, as Mr. Tim talks about, we do need to find how can we do this, and this system here, from what I saw, allows us to create a number of scenarios at real time that allows us to examine this, which could be done in the format of the workshops that we're talking about coming up. And I really think this would be extremely valuable to us, very helpful for us to have a true understanding, because the numbers are the real numbers. And those are going to be plugged in and mastered inside of this whole template that you all have developed over a number of years and tried already, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner McVoy?
Thank you. I would like to add to the support that Commissioner Zerdy has written. I too received the presentation, and this is more for members of the public who were not able to see it. We might want to show a little bit of it here for folks. The idea, as I understood it, is put all of the plus and minus, basically cash flow in and out of all the different parts of our budget into a model that you can visualize the things graphically, and that you can do both forward and backward in time analyses. And as the Commissioner's already alluded to, it allows us and the community, at least in a workshop setting when you folks are present, to try different ideas. What if you try to finance this? Or how does this connect to that? Or what does that look going out 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? I thought it was an extremely useful tool and a really helpful way for us to make more solid planning for our city that benefits everybody with real information. I also thought it was extremely helpful that we could look at what other cities are doing and learn from your experience working with other ones and actually visually see it. Hey, this city made this decision, they were in this situation, and here's how they turned it around. Would that work here? You know, I think that learning from others so we don't make the same mistakes is very useful. I do have a couple of specific questions to make sure that, you know, the $75,000 additional for this service is a noticeable chunk for our city. We're not a wealthy city, as you probably know quite a bit about at this point. Does this contract include a commitment to go back historically? And I think it would be useful, you obviously can't go back to 1910 and there's no need to. It probably would be useful to go back to pre-bubble, which means roughly 2004, 2005, as our values started going up, went to the bubble and then came back down, so that we kind of see what does this place look like when you take out the weirdness that happened both up and down during that period. If we can get the data and have enough of it, as much as we do have, I'd like to see that a commitment that we go back that far. It's a little more work for you folks, but I don't think it's impossible.
How much we can.
Yeah, and that's the key is, you know, from our perspective, and this might have come off, I'm not sure if it was on, okay. From our perspective, it would just depend on as much data as available. We would in fact prefer to get as much historical data, particularly on the general fund for taxable value growth, because that'll be one of the more sensitive assumptions about looking forward, our changes in that taxable value. And so we absolutely want to get as much normal period data as we can and understand the sensitivities to that during the extremes, the bubble
Right.
and then the bursting.
Right.
So we can have some sensitivity analysis to frame that for you about what happens if property values only were to increase by 1%, or what if they were to return to 5% levels, so you could have an understanding of the sensitivity of that impact and understand those trends and following going forward. So we like to do the same approach on the utility systems as well, to get a good understanding of the billing data, historical usage patterns, and overlay those against historical weather conditions to make sure that we have a good basis to work from. So we're very much on the same page, and that is part of what we do.
Okay, great. Got two more with that, if I might follow up. Do we have any sort of a commitment of how much comparison you'll do with other cities? Can we get you to sort of agree, maybe you've informally put that in, that we'll compare to at least 3 or 5 cities, something of that sort, just so we've got some understanding of how we compare?
Yeah, I think the mic may have went out, but Generally, we'll look at the number of comparables for City of Cape Coral that we did this for. We picked 5 communities that were very similar in
Great.
terms of their demographic profile. On utility systems, we typically expand it a little bit broader if we can. Electric will be difficult, but on the water and sewer, we try and grab a little bit more. So we'll at least go in the 5 range, maybe as many as 10, to try and give a very good range of comparisons.
That'd be excellent. And my last one is, the only challenge I see a little bit with this is that it's a pretty sophisticated tool. It's quite intuitive to understand. You know, I think we all, you know, you were very good at the display. But to use the tool, it's not that you're giving us a tool that we can sit in a corner and try scenarios and we would get home at night and say, oh, geez, I forgot about that one. That'd be really cool to run. And it basically requires 1 or 2 of you to come down and do that, which is obviously an expense and an undertaking. Is there a way that we can, as part of the contract, if we have a workshop and we now analyze a couple of things, we go away, we get some input from the community and they say, well, what about this scenario? That we can send you the scenario, you run it and ship us hard copy or, you know, make the screen live or, you know, some technology way of getting the information back. Is that something we can agree to?
Absolutely, and that's part of our normal scope of services. We have defined numbers of on-site meetings with staff to build and look at alternative scenarios, but invariably sensitivities and other data changes come up as part of the process. And we manage that as effectively and efficiently as possible, and one of the ways that we commonly do it is using, again, some of the technology communication tools out there like GoToMeeting, where we can have impromptu meetings and review the changes to the model live, and then the models are set up so that the schedules are easily exported with just a button click so that we can send those right over to you. So that, from our perspective, is really not a problem, and we plan for that within our project scope.
Perfect. I'm happy.
Right.
Thank you.
City Manager.
If you were going to say something, I just wanted to, just to provide my comments, based on what I've heard over the last couple of years from y'all and comments from the public, it was really my intent to really try to get at some consistent, meaningful way to get through some of the confusion that seems to constantly exist around the budgets. And they're very complicated. And to Steve's credit, you know, done a fabulous job with the technology we have, the pie charts, but it's been very difficult. And for the last year, he and I have been working together to try to find that tool to hit those marks. And this really does it. And I really want to thank him for sticking with me on this project to get to this point. You've already mentioned it's an important planning tool, real time, and that's going to become evident as people see it. It's going to help corral the discussion based on what you're seeing up there in the numbers, because you do have a lot of times limited choices, and it's going to keep the discussion on the playing field in a lot of ways. That hasn't always been easy for us in the data we've presented, and I think that's going to really contribute greatly to meaningful discussion and ultimately direction to us, your staff, to go in different directions, because you're going to see things that maybe you haven't seen them in the same way before. That consistency is going to be important for people, because as you go across 8 of these funds, you're going to start to see it. Even though each one of those businesses, if you want to call them, from the beach or the electric utility, are different, the consistency in the presentation of the data and looking at it is going to start to be familiar, and people are going to start to understand what to look for. And that's going to lead to the big transparency discussion that we've had. When things are confusing, people can't get at it easily, and they don't understand it. It's not transparent. So the public, I believe, are going to really start to appreciate this as they learn it and see this information over time, and it's going to make it very accessible. Also, internal to the organization, my managers are going to benefit because it's a good planning tool for them, and it makes it easier to understand the interrelatedness, and also the employees. There's a lot of misunderstanding about what the city has and their resources and what the conditions are among the internal staffs and the unions. So it's really a tremendous shift in how we deal with really important information. That's the lifeblood of what we're doing. And you know, the numbers aren't going to be good. They haven't been consistently going forward. But I think this is really going to hone down on, you know, the real facts of what we're dealing with, and we're going to get some good decisions and move forward for the health of the city. So I'm excited. Steve, I want to thank you. Andy, thank you very much for this. I have high expectations, so we're going to roll this out in this budget cycle if you approve this tonight.
Very well said. Thank you, City Manager. I'll need a motion, please.
I would like to move to approve.
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you. And Mr. Carr's leaving us again. He's going off on some world tour, so we have the new finance director coming in.
By the way, for the record, there were no comment cards.
No, there wasn't.
For the agenda item.
So we want to thank Steve again. This is another tremendous thing he's done working with the city, and I can't thank him enough for all he's done.